Denis Nilsen. On the evening of February the 8th, 1983, Mike Catran, a Diner Rod employee, arrived at 23 Cranley Gardens for what seemed like another routine job to investigate a report that the drains had been blocked for 5 days. Catran lifted a manhole at the side of the house and climbed down to the waste trap below, while a tenant of the property, Jim Alcock, shone a torch for him. Once in the drain, he found a grey porridge-like slime had built up on the floor, and as he examined the pipe from the house, more poured out. The smell in the drain was vile, making him feel sick. He told the tenants he would have to return the next day to examine the drain in the daylight. When he returned the next morning, he noticed the manhole cover had been moved, and when he entered the drain, he noticed the porridge-like substance had gone. The tenants told him that they had heard footsteps in the night, and they thought the man in the attic had been to the manhole that night. Michael Catran examined the pipe from the house again and pulled some pieces of bone and meat from inside the pipe. He then decided things seemed a bit suspicious and decided to call the police. Detective Chief Inspector Peter J. arrived and sent the meat and bones to Hornsey Mortuary for tests. It was confirmed the flesh was human tissue from the neck and the small bones were from a man's hand. When Nilsen arrived home from work that evening, the police officers were waiting to talk to him. When the officers said to Nilsen, "We have found human remains in the drain," Nilsen replied, "Good grief, how did that get there?" But when pressed and told, "Don't mess about, where is the rest of the body?" he responded, "In 2 plastic bags in the wardrobe next door." Nilsen was arrested and taken to the police station for questioning. He immediately began to confess, showing little or no remorse for his actions. His first victim had been in December 1978. He had met a young man in a pub, Stephen Dean Holmes. After drinking, the two men returned to his flat at 195 Melrose Avenue and got naked and shared the bed. In the morning, fearing that Holmes would leave, Nilsen took his necktie and strangled the boy with it. After a struggle, Nilsen noticed the young man was still breathing, so he filled a bucket with water and held his head under the water for several minutes until he was dead. Nilsen then washed and dressed the body and put it back into his bed. He then tried to have sex with the body. When he failed to do so, he dumped the body on the floor. The next morning, he hid the body under the floorboards in his room. A week later, he removed the corpse and bathed it and performed a sex act over it, and then replaced the body under the floorboards. During the whole of this time, he went to work as normal. It was 8 months later, in August 1979, that Nilsen took the body from beneath the floorboards. He cut it up and placed it into plastic bags, and then burned them on a bonfire in his garden. His killing spree lasted for a further 4 years, with 15 men losing their lives. Each of the men was strangled and placed under the floorboards or in the wardrobe in his flat. Nilsen would wash and bathe them and have sex with them before replacing them under the floorboards. Most of the bodies were burnt on a bonfire in the garden he had exclusive access to from his ground floor flat at Melrose Place. It was only when he moved to Cranley Gardens and continued his murders that the problems of disposing of the bodies occurred. His solution was to flush pieces of the bodies down the toilet. This is what had led to the drains becoming blocked, and had led to his eventual downfall and arrest in February 1983. In November 1983 at the Old Bailey No. 1 Court, Denis Nilsen was convicted of 6 murders and 2 counts of attempted murder and sent to Wormwood Scrubs. Sentenced to spend at least 25 years behind bars, he is still in prison to this day.